What's up, YouTube? This is Carrie from Side Tripping with Carrie, and today we are at Greenwood Memory Lawn Cemetery here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we are visiting the final resting place of Deana Bowdin. In 1978, Deana Bowdin was a student at Arizona State University, and at that time, very close to graduation. And at that time, she was brutally raped and murdered by a fellow by the name of Clarence Dixon, who is currently on death row in Arizona. We are going to talk more about Clarence Dixon and his case coming up, but also wanted to talk a little bit about Deana Bowdin herself and the promise that she had, meaning the accomplishments that she could have achieved, that she was well on her way toward achieving. And it's just a shame that her life ended not only the way it did, but at the time it did, with her being so young. So Deana Bowdin was brutally raped and murdered in 1978. She, at the time, was a student at Arizona State University, which is here in Tempe, Arizona. And this is the bench put up by her family. And J.D. James is her nephew, who passed away before Deana even got a chance to meet him. And here's her final resting place. And her nephew. So Deana was 8 months away from graduation at ASU. She had a lot going for her. She was a beautiful woman, young woman in the prime of her life, and she was well on her way to success. She had already taken the LSAT, which is the entry test for law school admissions, and she'd also she was preparing to sit for the federal civil service exam, so she could have become like a embassy official with the United States State Department. So, you know, those are two very high achieving, or marks of a high achiever, and there's no telling what she could have become. So on the night of her murder, and I remember this, in 78, I was, I believe, a freshman in high school, and I remember this. I mean, anytime any co-ed at ASU was harmed in any way, it was big news. And it was kind of one of those situations where I thought that the murder would be solved relatively quickly. Well, it wasn't. It took, it was decades later. The case wound up going cold, even though there was DNA evidence found at the scene. Good DNA evidence. Some DNA evidence that they could work with. The problem was the DNA technology hadn't arrived there at the time, in the late 70s versus what we have now. It's a big difference. So eventually in 2007, the Tempe cold case detective worked on the matter, and a DNA match came up. And a DNA match came up for a guy by the name of Clarence Dixon. And man, this Clarence Dixon guy, at the time, so in 2007, Clarence Dixon was in prison for life for committing a series of sexual assaults on other women. And at the time of this murder in 1978, he had just been released, or just been found, I shouldn't say released, but he had been found not guilty by reason of insanity by none other than former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who at the time was a Maricopa County Superior Court trial court judge. And Mr. Dixon at that time was accused of yet another sexual assault. So, and he lived like right across the street from Deana's apartment in Tempe. And you know, it's just amazing how it's amazing. I'm sure her family is thankful for you know, the perpetrator being found. And the case is in the news today, or recently I should say, because the Arizona Attorney General, Mark Brnovich, has made motions in the Arizona Supreme Court to get the executions, that process started for Mr. Dixon and a guy by the name of Frank Atwood. And this guy Atwood killed an 8-year-old girl in Tucson by the name of Vicki Lynn Hoskinson. And I'm going to put up a link to it's an excellent video by Don, who does Faces of the Forgotten. And he did a video on Vicki Lynn Hoskinson when he was down in Tucson, I want to say last year sometime. But it's excellent. So I will put up a link to that. I'm also going to put up a couple of links to fairly recent videos of Deana's sister, Leslie, who still lives here in the valley and comes out. I can tell she comes out here quite often because the gravesite itself is very well kept and maintained. And also a video interview from a few years back of Deana and Leslie's parents. And it's really sad. It's really sad listening to her mom and dad talk about their daughter. And they have since both passed on as well. But, you know, I'm not going to get into a big debate about the death penalty. Followers of this channel know that my background, I'm a criminal defense attorney. So again, I'm not going to get into a debate. I have mixed feelings about the death penalty, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I will say that Mr. Dixon is in good hands. His attorney's an attorney that I know by the name of Dale Bache, and Mr. Bache is an excellent death penalty lawyer. So he is very well represented, and I'm sure that, you know, that when the process goes through, whatever the outcome may be, all avenues will have been exhausted. And with that being said, man, Mark Brnovich, the Attorney General, couldn't have picked two kind of less sympathetic people to get this process started. Like I said, Mr. Dixon had a long history of violence, of sexual assaults against women, but I guess in his defense, he's also has a pretty extensive mental health history too. So again, I said I'm not going to get into a debate about it, but I just kind of wanted to put that out there. So we'll stay tuned to see what happens. Kind of the development with regard to the moving the death penalty or the execution dates forward. Both Atwood and Dixon were convicted of crimes that occurred prior to 1994. So both of these guys get to decide whether they want to be, you know, let's say if the execution or the death warrants are granted by the court, they both can elect to do lethal injection or the gas chamber. And from what I've read, the state has moved forward with putting the gas chamber kind of back together, getting the seals on it together and getting it back tip-top operational in case that's what they decide to do. And the state has also ordered the precursor chemicals to compound or make phenobarbital as part of the lethal injection part. But apparently they ordered, not only did they order the wrong cyanide pellets for the gas chamber, but they ordered the wrong medication to make or compound the phenobarbital. So, you know, back to the drawing board on that. But, you know, it's the state. They'll get it done, I'm sure. And, you know, it'll be up to the Supreme Court to decide, the Arizona Supreme Court, and maybe even ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court, depending on how the appeals go, as to whether either one or both of these executions go forward. So we'll stay tuned. But, you know, I would think that if the execution of Mr. Dixon goes through, it will bring at least, I don't want to say closure, because Deana's sister herself doesn't like that term, but it'll maybe just bring some finality to this whole incident. And it's really a shame that Deana died so young with and being a person of such promise. And you know, my sympathy goes out to her family and friends who I'm sure missed her even after all these years. So with that, I'm going to end the video, folks. If you like the video, please subscribe, or please like it on YouTube, and then feel free to subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, family, and we'll hit you back here later with a new video, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching.